this and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, Tortua! What the fuck, Tortua?
Oh, sorry.
What the fuck? The fuck's wrong, bro?
I didn't have it in my hand. I didn't know who you were throwing it to. You
Look around the room. It's only going to you.
That's true, yeah.
My God.
Could have went to Guapo.
He got it last week.
Could have went to Guapo.
He gets it once a week.
Yo, we got less than a week till we have baseball.
What?
That's right. Spring training starts Saturday. Games. We got games.
The Yankees have Juan Soto.
I know.
The Yankees have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge.
Yankees are going to be good this year.
I don't know
Yankees are
about
gonna be
that.
good.
Aren't they good like every year, though?
No, they didn't make the playoffs last year.
We've been sucked for the last 10 years.
No.
It's been a while.
Yeah, Judge is good.
Is
Judge is
he
the
a
best.
Yankees or Mets guy?
Yankee.
I am a Yankee first.
Yeah.
And then Mets.
Right.
It's like Rangers, then Islanders,
Are you
Yankees,
like-
the Mets.
Are you Jets first and then Giants?
Actually, I'm pretty unilateral when it comes to football.
Are you from Long Island?
Yes.
How is it Rangers then Islanders?
Because I've been a Ranger fan.
That'd be like me saying it's the Eagles then Steelers.
No, it is not. It's a fucking 15-minute drive from one Coliseum to the other.
Aren't the Islanders on Long Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you live close. You live closer to Pittsburgh, but you root for Penn State over Pitt.
Yeah,
so.
well, that was because I got indoctrinated.
Maybe you did.
I'm first of all curious how we're getting from Long Island to Madison Square Garden in 15 minutes.
I mean, by train, it's 25. No traffic, it's 20.
Bridge and tunnel crowd, bro.
Man, I feel like he measures distance in time the way that I measure distance in time.
Well, I mean, that was clear from the Connie Dixon line.
I gotta
the Connie
say,
Dixon line is absolutely
But like, you know, I'm
fucking
plus or
appropriate.
minus like 5 minutes. I used to say we live 15 minutes from the city, which it's where I grew up. It was probably like closer to 20. For Lamanna, it was like 65 minutes or so.
that's a nice 30-year-old shirt you got
like
there.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I got one.
I know. Word in your honor, big guy.
Oh, is that that's the
That's
shirt?
the shirt.
This is the one.
Oh man, that's
Wait a minute,
amazing.
wait a minute. That
Wait a minute.
wasn't your outfit shirt. This was just a shirt you got for making the team?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, of course. This is our warm-up jersey, baby.
You have a warm-up jersey for baseball?
We had real uniforms. I mean, we ain't fucking
A
around.
taxi takes 34 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, I guess for high school baseball teams, they didn't have like...
Landon, you were -5 years old when
This
he
was-
got that shirt.
This was not high school, big guy. This I was 12 years old when I got this
Yeah.
shirt.
How are you wearing a shirt when you were fucking 12?
30-year-old shirt, man. What do you mean? You don't got a 30-year-old shirt?
No.
Oh, that seems like a mistake.
You've
I have a
just
2-year-old
you
shirt.
stayed
I
the
do.
same size since you were the right
No.
age of 13.
No, this is
That
is
looks
so
like-
big on me.
that
It's
looks
like
like fitting.
if here, I'll stand up. I'll show you. It's
How is that?
It has a fucking
literally
whip in
fits.
it.
Of course it does. It's 30 years old. I'm
Then
surprised it
get
only
rid
has
of
one.
it.
No, but like
No.
it literally
you could
fits,
never get
though.
rid of that shirt. Like I still have the powder puff
It's,
shirt too.
How fat were you?
well, I was fat, but this is they
He's
didn't
fat, Matt.
they didn't size us. They just gave us all an XL.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
Everybody
what?
just got an XL. It wasn't like you got a size.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, maybe like the Mighty Mite kids that were like 5'4", $110. They were like, we'll give them a large.
Can't believe those assholes made it over me.
Shout out to Chris Simon, John Bologna.
They were little guys.
We literally called this kid Big Man because he was like not big at all.
Ironic nickname.
Very ironic. Yeah, thinking back on it, around that time frame, sizing for everything in the early 90s was just, you wore 2 sizes up.
Bed sizing, shirt sizing, same thing.
Same thing. Didn't matter. Well, yeah, it was
Yep.
bet in the penny jar back then.
Right. Big sizing.
Yeah, like my t-shirts, I think I used to wear like XL, double XL type of shirts.
Oversized. You were before your time.
Imagine being like 12 years old. I was maybe like 5'8", $130, $135 tops, and I'm just swimming in a double XL.
But in the 90s, baggy clothes were very in.
Super in.
They're in
Yeah.
now. Like oversized.
Comes back stronger than
Everything
a 90s
comes back.
trend,
And
you know?
they're nowhere near as in as what they used to be.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're only in for really skinny dudes and
I mean,
small girls.
It's not even guys. Like baggy pants aren't a thing. Period.
No, they definitely are especially for like small women.
No, for men, I'm talking about. Baggy pants are not a thing anymore. They're gone.
Yeah. Well, it's one or the other, right? Like either you wear the joggers that are like skin tight, or you go for the triple XL.
Or you go for the double oversized look, like the big
The pump cover.
sweatshirt. Yeah, the big sweatshirt.
Hammer
the big
pants.
I would implore everybody to go out today. If you go outside, look at everybody's pants. I bet you'll never see baggy pants like the 90s again.
It's like streetwear though. It's like very.
You're never gonna
niche.
see the fucking Echo, the type of pant, the Django type of pants that was running around the 90s,
Well,
early 2000s.
I mean, we grew up in rural Pittsburgh, man. We didn't see either of those.
We saw the skater.
Yeah.
The skater baggy
Yeah.
Skater
pants.
boy?
We saw a lot of
Yeah.
Skechers shoes.
Avril Lavigne was there.
Said, see you later, boy.
I mean,
a lot of
I feel like these type of clothing were for your
Demographic?
demographic, your fucking where you lived.
He doesn't know where he lives. He can't point it out on a map.
That's true. Good point.
I'm not great with maps. That's true. Cue
Where's that
the
state?
map.
Yeah.
Andrew Freud says,
Roll
can
the map.
Can the Peanut Gallery get a review of Elliot Rowe's book, A Game Poker? We actually are going to be doing a review on it.
Would you look at this? Right
It
here.
is right here.
Right
Shout
here.
out to Elliot. He sent us all a copy.
I am going to take it home one of these days and read it. It's
Well,
just been sitting on
You
the
should do
on
it
the
today
table.
because we're probably going to do a review shortly.
Just read it right now.
I would hope.
Chapter 12. From knowledge to action.
He's gonna read
At
for
the
us.
start of this book, I said,
Plan will be within the next couple weeks. Depends on how fast these guys can read. I did see.
2028 for me.
I read 10 pages a day.
The turtle reads slow.
Conrad
Conrad reads jumbled words.
I like to do things
I read
slow
fast.
and
I
steady.
just can't read too much.
I'll get the whole book done, but it's going to take a while.
That's
You
a-
just give me a chapter, and then I'll read it.
That's
And tell me
that's a sick excuse.
and then I'll read the entire book on my own time.
The irony that Conrad thinks he's a speed reader, I think, is the most beautiful takeaway of all.
I read pretty fast.
Have you ever seen that video of the guy that's like, I'm the fastest reader of all time, and he like has a book and just goes.
That's also why I can't read out loud.
Mm.
Because I like skip ahead. I just read quick, very quick. I skim shit. I don't
His
like.
mouth isn't as fast as his brain.
Right,
True.
right. But somehow he arrives at the bleh.
That's because that's what it's
'cause
vomit,
that's me
right?
catching up.
Yeah.
Right, okay. It's brain is processing.
yeah.
It's
Loading.
like word salad, but not salad. Just jumble.
But I also can't read more than 10
salad.
pages.
Right. Because
Limited attention span.
Yes.
that it just collapses.
No, I just get really fucking bored.
Hey man, 10 pages is a lot. That's enough for 75 hard.
That is enough for 75 hard. You should get on it, Conrad.
You're 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
Nah.
I am. Today was day 50, maybe,
80.
or last night was day 50. I
Maybe.
can't remember.
Wow.
Really hit a plateau. I lost like 20. I think I lost like 27 pounds in the first 30 days, and now I've like gained back a half pound.
How do you feel now versus then, like body wise?
I
Not like
feel
progress wise, like just mental.
mentally. I mean, look, this isn't really a 75 hard challenge, right? I'm just like following the rules of a arbitrary thing. This is just everyday life.
You're doing the thing.
Yeah, like I'm just tracking now. That's the only real difference. I think that there's a much harder version of this that I could put myself through if I had enough focus to put that much time and energy into something.
Or like a prop bet.
Yeah, maybe if it came down to that. But like, you have to understand, like what Sean did was, a full-time job. And don't get me wrong, if that could be my full-time job, I would happily accept it. I would love to just be Goggins or maybe not Goggins. He's a little bit sick.
Yeah.
But
A little
like,
bit.
like these guys
An
that are
animal.
out there that are spending 8 hours a day scrutinizing everything they eat, coming up with multiple workouts, like, doing the thing.
Like bodybuilder esque.
I don't want to be a bodybuilder.
Right.
No part of me wants to be a bodybuilder, but I want to be a functional mover. I want to be an athlete. I want to be athletic and involved in those endeavors. But it's like, if you're putting enough time in it where it's a full-time job, you have to be either incredibly wealthy already or have an ability to make money without putting any effort into it.
Sick physique plus marketing funnels.
Yeah.
Get good at Instagram.
No, I don't think so.
Too old for that.
It's not even about being too old. It's just it's very saturated.
We haven't got our. We went to the doctors on.
We
when I
as
said
in
we as in me.
you?
We
Okay.
on Friday.
Royal
We're
we.
down. We're down
Can we
like
get rid of the royal
Yeah.
we? You and Hunt love it.
I know. I'm down 12 pounds since
Hunt's
the last
pretty.
time I was
Hey,
there.
Let's go.
Okay,
So that's good.
that's great. Tony's proud.
Tony is proud. I didn't get the blood work back yet because
Right. Takes some time.
well, no, it shouldn't take that much time. But it was on a Friday, so then there's a weekend, and then today's a holiday, which I'm sure you have
So
no
wait,
idea
are we-
that today's a holiday.
Oh, today's President's Day.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
today's the 20th?
I'm very
Fuck.
I'm very impressed that you knew it's not the 20th. It's the 19th.
Oh, okay.
But it's always the last Monday in February.
Yeah. My dad's birthday is tomorrow.
Or is it the last Monday? I don't know. Probably can't be the last Monday.
Wait,
Why are you saying fuck? You figured it out the day before.
Because I just thought
Yeah.
today was the 20th.
Maybe it's the third Monday in February.
Yeah, because there's one more left.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. Okay. So today is apparently a holiday. Who
Yeah,
cares?
so hopefully tomorrow we get the results. We'll see what was the line on the tee?
Are we making a bet?
525 was the line.
525, yeah.
I'm taking under 525.
Yeah.
I'll take the over.
Okay. What do you want to book?
$1.
Okay. So one empanada. You can pay me in bone broth.
You got it.
I like that Guapo has faith in me though.
So like a
I think he has
tablespoon of
faith.
it.
Yeah.
I think I don't know where it'll be.
I
have
don't
no
think it's
idea.
gonna be far one direction or the other.
Yeah.
What
What would be really bad if I got it back and it said
I think anything over like anything under 200, 250 is considered low at your age.
I would be concerned much higher. Like anything under 3, I would be very concerned.
okay.
Personally.
If it's under 3, I'll be concerned too.
Yeah, personally. I mean, even if it's like under 5, I would probably actively try to
You're 41, B?
improve it.
42. 40. Easy. It's not August yet.
Well, I'm 42, so therefore.
Listen, we're the same age, Burke, for at least the next few months.
You guys are like middle aged.
We've been middle
No,
aged.
I know.
bro.
It just clicked, you know.
You'll be middle aged in like 10 years.
He's 34.
That's middle age.
Think he'll have his license by then?
No.
No. I don't think he'll ever have his
cars will be
license.
just like rendered useless by the
Yeah.
time he
Well,
hits
I
middle
mean, it
age.
already is. You couldn't even get it started this week.
No, in 10 years, nobody's going to need a license because the car's just going to drive itself.
What do you
This
think?
AI is
What's
unbelievable
the
right
middle age crisis going to look like for Landon's generation? Like, it's not going to be a sports car. It's not going to be a busty blonde.
Yeah. The thing is, but Landon's the age expectancy is probably like 120. So
gonna be
like
a bust-
60 is middle age for Landon.
It's going to be a
That's
busty
true.
with blue hair. What do you mean? It's going to be like an anime fucking character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it happened.
No, it's going to be,
all
yes.
gonna come full circle.
It's going to be an AI generated big titty anime girl sex doll.
Wow.
That's
probably
that's
exists.
gonna
Wow,
be
look at
it.
that drop.
I was right. Look, 41 is right around 300, just under 300.
Yeah, but this is the entire population of people who get their blood work done, not like just healthy individuals. Like there's a lot of unhealthy individuals included.
You
in that.
consider me a healthy individual?
I would, yeah. I would be basically if you're around the populace, I would be very concerned.
Right.
Those numbers are always going to reflect something slightly worse.
That makes sense.
More unhealthy people than healthy.
Correct.
Yeah, I could see this big titty, blue haired anime AI girl.
It's
Did you
going
guys
down.
hear that?
This probably exists
What?
already.
You didn't hear that?
Hear what?
The goalpost just moving? I won this one, guys. I was right. Berkey was wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay, sure.
I mean,
I also went to a clinic that told me 150
let
was
it go.
normal.
Do you
Just let
hear
me
the
win, bro.
goalpost
you think
move?
Berkey's
Just let
ever
me
going to let
fucking
anybody
win.
win?
Wait a minute,
anything,
hold on.
like,
Is
in
it?
an
Do you
argument?
hear the goalpost move, or do you see the goalpost
What would be
move?
safe?
Both.
It's pretty heavy.
I'm telling. Look, whatever you want to say is fine, but if you're in your 40s and your testosterone's 300, you should be concerned. Very, very, very concerned.
Maybe Guapo has 300.
It sounds like he might.
Nah, I'm in the middle.
In the middle of what?
Yeah, like 450, 500. I can't remember, but it was in the 4s or 5s, something like that.
I think if you like, well, obviously, like maybe what the recommendation is wrong, but I think the recommendation is like anything above 250.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll
Right.
live. You know?
Congrats.
I'm saying is a
You're
healthy
alive.
range.
Right, but they're judging. My definition of healthy and theirs, I think, are very, very, very
Why
far
does it drop off
obviously.
so hard?
Because
Called
a
getting
lot of your
old.
a lot
Well,
of your
there's some
hormonal
motor
systems
in
just
that,
shut
right?
down. Like
Yeah.
you don't have your pituitary really active any longer. stop producing GH? Because you're supposed to decay and die.
Yeah, because you're not in peak reproductive age. So you don't need to.
You don't have to hunt. You don't have to reproduce. You don't have to
Right.
provide for the tribe, so to speak.
Sad.
Right. So
You
like
could
their
just
version of healthy is you don't fuck no more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're 46 with ED? That's healthy.
Right.
Don't even sweat it. Here's the unfortunate thing for you, Landon. By the time your not just you, but everybody, by the time your prefrontal cortex fully develops at 25,
My frontal lobe.
yeah, you have like 3 good years left before you start to hit the decline. Like right around 28's peak for men. And then from there, everything starts
Is
Is
to
it
sad
take.
he
downhill
looks.
or is it like 32?
It's very gradual. I mean, you know,
I think
You're not gonna just be like,
testosterone, is late 20s.
yeah, 28 is like when we hit our hormonal peak, and then it's a very gradual
Landon,
decline until your 40s.
Listen, just keep eating raw eggs and hit the gym and you'll be fine.
I'll be fine, but like
No, you'll be good. You'll be good.
artificially.
You know what?
That's what
More eggs, less ice cream, you'll be fine.
I haven't had ice cream in a while. But like,
Good.
that's what TRT is supposed to do, right?
Well, yeah, at some point.
But TRT, isn't there like tons of like side effects to it?
Depends.
Yeah.
Not especially if you're taking like, you know,
Small doses.
maintenance doses or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it depends. If you go through a doctor or do you go through like, you know,
A guy on the street.
You go through a friend.
fucking
a
a guy
friend.
whose veins are bigger than your biceps. Like, well,
That's what we want, right?
well, no.
Jeremy Becker's
Very
not eating ice
vascular.
cream.
Mm.
Eh.
Yeah. That was a bad attempt at a segue. You're not reading Run of Show.
No. I'm not segueing. I'm just saying he's probably not eating ice cream.
All right, so let's
Might
get
get
to a
after
few
it.
things. There's some news and notes that happened around the community. First and foremost, Kitty and Frankie, they had their baby.
Yeah.
Congratulations to those two.
I was there when this love story started.
You were.
I was. It was on the WPT stream. It was very
Aw.
It was a beautiful thing.
Was it?
It was a beautiful thing.
It looked like
You're so cute.
it looked like it looked like coercion to me.
God, it was one
You
of
go on a date with me right now.
that was one of the, if you win this hand, we go on date. It was one of the
It
funniest
really
shits
was.
ever.
You win,
really was.
we go on a date, we lose, we go on a date, and they chopped the first run out. So technically,
Yeah, it was the Tens versus Queens.
Yeah.
I remember this. Honestly, it was like, man, what great entertainment. Like, imagine if this past year of their relationship could have just been a reality show.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Man.
what a story arc.
Right. Yeah.
They play together. They go on a couple dates. 1 year later, they have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't write this shit. It's incredible.
it's sick lore. That's for sure.
That is true. So big shout out to those two. We're happy that the baby's healthy and happy. Unlucky for
Frankie's
Kitty.
my age and her dad. That's crazy.
Oh, I thought he was younger than you.
No, like roughly the same age. I think
Okay.
maybe a year younger.
What do
or
you mean
something.
that's crazy? This kid's fucking 6 years younger than you, having twins.
No, I get that. It's just like to me, like
He doesn't have a
prefrontal-
driver's license. Of course, it's crazy to him.
No, just like the frontal lobe's not even there yet.
Yeah.
You can't picture yourself being a father right now?
No, absolutely not. That'd be terrifying. I'm not even.
You
I'm
do all right,
barely
though.
like a sensible
You
adult.
can hardly take care of yourself.
I can take care of myself, but I don't want to take care of someone else.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy.
For real.
You can take care of yourself, but I feel like if like a monkey wrench gets thrown in your life, then you
I
kind
don't
of
want
get a
no
little
monkey
flustered.
wrenches.
Right.
I don't want
So
a
like
monkey.
a kid, would
That's
be,
that's not a monkey wrench.
It's a-
That's a human being.
right. But I'm saying like, when you have children, there's probably gonna be some monkey wrenches along the way.
Probably,
But
but
if
like,
you got to brain solve in real time.
I guess like with the whole kid thing, it's like okay, like I will be very aware if like I even want to call it be a dad
yeah.
that I'm prepared for
Mm-hmm.
child.
Yeah.
All right, I've decided this makes sense. No children before then, so probably not.
Okay. Use protection.
Also, I don't know where the picture went. It seems to have disappeared. But Frankie's low key shredded. By the way,
Yeah.
Sleeper build for real.
bro is not skipping leg day or arm day or
Any
any
day.
day for that matter.
His T isn't under 200.
No, he's out there ripping it. We're happy for them.
Sleeper
Be
build
excited to see
Frankie.
you guys get back
Oh, you
on. There it
found
is.
it?
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
Guapo just got it pulled
God
up.
damn.
Let's go. Bro ain't messing around.
Bro, have a pump before this picture.
Nope. That's walking. That's
Walking weight.
Walking weight. Yeah.
Goals. Big shout out to Lily Newhouse, former Academy attendee. She had one hell of a weekend. So we had our own daily crusher. She went out there. She shipped the 165 p.m. For 4,600. No big deal. But that pales by comparison.
Do you want a different daily?
Yeah, she did win a different daily. What was this? This was not a circuit event, correct? This was the OC.
No, not a circuit event. It's an online championship.
Right.
No ring, no hardware, she said, but the 52,000 kind of makes up for it.
But yeah, so this is the OC main event. Looks like that series just came to a close.
It was a 525.
Shipped it for 52K.
You saw who got third?
Who?
Toby.
Did he?
Toby time.
All right, Toby.
Congrats to Toby.
Yeah.
Dust Pistons in there. Look, you see the UK flag.
I don't know why I always thought that was Ankush.
Oh, shout out to Ankush too. He final tabled the.
He won.
Oh, he won.
Yeah,
he won
the
it.
Venetian 1600. I feel like
he won it.
I feel like Cush's full tilt name was like Dust Pistons or something like that. Maybe Toby stole it.
Cush's WSOP name is Rick Ross the Bee.
Yeah, I knew that actually. You're right.
I could see like Toby just fucking with him and like stealing his name, like when he made his account. Just
that's what what like some of the online stars guys did for ACR. Yeah. Like Linus's name on ACR is Born to Tilt, which is Stars Reg.
Like that name.
So like they steal each other's names and shit. So they think it's kind of each other, but it's not.
Right.
They're
It probably doesn't work. It probably doesn't work quite as well whenever you're an elite player stealing another elite player's name.
I think it's more just troll.
Just like in community troll. Just the high stakes memers.
Well, you're Berkey 11 on.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
No.
Don't worry about it.
Well, I'm not allowed to say. Somewhere that I don't have an account.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing.
It's pretty sick, actually. I shouldn't bluff a river on Berkey 11.
Never.
I probably shouldn't even do that pre.
Just start limping. People will really believe it.
Don't bluff the river and don't call rivers because they know you're.
Yeah, they know who you are. Yeah. Well, I can say because I played on GG for Vancouver.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you wanted people to know.
Oh, I don't care.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, very few people will know.
Action dealer.
Yeah.
Is not his name.
It's Berkey 11 on GG.
Berkey 11.
Yeah, but I'm saying on WSOP.
Oh.
Yeah, they know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there soon.
Yeah, that's true. Did you guys happen to see that Jer got called out by Peter Jetton for owing quite a large debt?
What's the lore between them?
They were best friends.
Yeah, like I don't know these things, right?
Inseparable. So
that picture.
Barry's really fucking good at the memes, man.
Yeah.
He's really good at the memes. So yeah, the very quick cliff notes of the backstory of the come up was, do you guys know the book Ship It Halabalas?
Heard of, never read.
Okay. Highly recommend everybody reads it.
That's our new book club?
Especially for you because I think it gives you insight into like my generation a lot more. And it's going to be one of those books, maybe not because maybe it was written too early where nobody's going to care at some point, but it reminds me, I'm sure you've never heard of this, but Lamanna will know, like Positively Fifth Street. That was like the big book when we came up, and it kind of like spoke to the culture of being a professional poker player and like what it was like. It really gave you a good, I guess, purview. And I don't even think it was a true story. I think it might have been fictional. But either way.
Does the Ship It Halabalas have anything to do with Dan Smith Hala?
No.
Okay.
Well, no, I don't think so. So the crew that the book was written about, the core of it was Robel, Der,
Galfond,
Benefield, Galfond, and
was Benedy 6 part of it?
No.
Okay.
And then Peter Jetton.
I see.
And then off of that were a bunch of other characters that were like a part of the Ship It Halabala crew. So Jay Little, Torelli.
Ship It adjacent.
I don't even know if it was adjacent. Like there were different points where they were like all living together out here during the summer and things of that nature. It's just that core group was like, they really rose to prominence, and Peter was very attached to Der within all of this.
Was I guess the other crew was like Dan Smith, Chewy, Tony Dunst. They all were kind of boys and did the same thing, like lived together, like
maybe like way after the
Got
fact. This is very different, I think. Because like when I think back, there was like that collection, then there was like the Seaver Ike collection that kind of spawned off to include like Ben CB, Kuhn, or Ben E6 rather, Kuhn, et cetera, et cetera. But like it all started as like, you know, we're talking like 2003 to 2006 online, right? So like Seaver and Ike were roommates in college.
And they played high stakes. They got to high stakes super quick.
They kind of like advanced hand in hand, if you will. And then like the Ship and Hall Baller crew, I'm not really sure like what the commonality was. I'm sure it's in the book. It's just been a really long time since I read it. I don't remember how they commonly all came together, but like, you know, they all kind of rose to prominence at the same time. But anyway, the lead through this is that, you know, Peter and Durr were incredibly close as best anybody could tell. And then there was this third person, and his name is escaping me right now, but he suffered an aneurysm at the WSOP. This must have been 7 years ago, maybe. I want to say like 2017, 2018-ish. I really wish I could remember his name. But he suffered an aneurysm at the table and was, I think he was in a coma for like many months. And I just remember Durr and Peter being like by his side the whole way. I think his name is Kevin for some reason. I can't really recall off the top of my head. But anyway, you know, fast forward a few years, he ended up recovering to some degree. And I know that like Durr and Peter were like supporting his recovery and his comeback. And he was still playing cards somewhat. And then, you know, COVID hit. And obviously that changed everything. I'd say all that because it's very shocking now to see
Jack Strauss.
No, Strauss is he's like 90 years old. I say all that because now to see Peter come forward and say basically like, don't do business with Tom. He's owed me $250,000 for 4 years, and he continues to use delay tactics, which of course we've already heard this many times in the past, specifically between he and the Jungle Challenge. Although I think Jungle Man confirmed, yes, it was Kevin Fwap. Thank you. I think that Jungle confirmed that most, if not all, of the penalties have been paid on the Durr Challenge. Anyway, that took 10, 15 years maybe to finally come to grips. For Peter to call out Durr, though, is a little bit different because they did have this close relationship. So it seems to me that, you know, there had to be some major falling out. And I'm also really surprised, you know, this tweet went up yesterday at 11 a.m. No response from Durr as best I can find. You know, basically just kind of the whole thread kind of just said like, you know, he's here, there, or somewhere else playing really high stakes, like good luck getting in touch type of stuff. So I don't know. I hope this all gets worked out. For it to come out publicly, it feels like, you know, this is kind of the last straw type of thing, which is surprising to me. Oh, man.
You all right there, buddy?
No, I got a tickle in my throat.
I was going to say, you not
away.
recovered from that sinus infection yet, are you?
I was down bad.
I am. I just got a tickle. You get that like little, you know, in the back of your throat.
Yeah, I just can't get rid of it.
I just like want to constantly clear my throat.
Like that.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we should expect from all this. It might just be not that big of a deal. Maybe they'll handle it privately.
We'll monitor it.
Got an ear to the streets.
Yeah. You know.
Perhaps Durr will come out and say something publicly.
Yeah.
I would think he would need to. But I don't know, man. Like, his story is so fascinating to me.
Durr's?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what's that documentary going to be like when it finally comes out?
Yeah, that would be great.
The rise and fall of Durr is like an AE special just ready to be made. Like, he's been a ghost kind of in the public sphere for the past, I don't know, 10 years?
But that's by choice, right?
Yeah, he's a ghost to us, but isn't he like on the other side of the world?
Maybe
probably
it's not.
locked in a
I don't
room
think it's by
playing cards?
choice.
No?
I don't know, man.
He's not just in these like random underground
I mean, he is.
Chinese games where
He's definitely
Russian.
He's around.
I don't think he's crushing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what his deal is. I don't know what games it is that he's playing. I've gotten to play with him a handful of times over the past.
I feel like it was
6
right
years or
after
so.
Isildur. I feel like as soon as the Isildur thing was done, I felt like that's when he kind of just started to disappear.
What's the correlation with Isildur?
I think he lost a bunch to Isildur, and then I think within like a year or two, I think that's when he went to Macau when he started playing out there. My time could be a little bit off, but I felt like that's when he sort of disappeared from the scene.
I don't know if Isildur was a part of the Dur challenge or not, but
No, he wasn't a part of the Dur challenge. I just remember they were playing a lot, and Isildur took a lot off of him.
Dur was fine until Black Friday. Isildur also is another enigma that would be a story worth telling. His rise and fall is absolutely
bananas.
It's wild as well. But yeah, I don't think there's any correlation to like Isildur and Dur or anything like that, because Dur was fine until the day Black Friday hit. And once, the full tilt money kind of ran out, once the Dur challenge started to collapse around him, maybe there was like a 2 or 3 year window where he was still doing okay. I think he made the prop bet to win a bracelet in like 2013-ish, somewhere around that time, where he got heads up and ended up losing it. That cost him a bunch. But Macau started to pop off like around 2012, 2013.
Wasn't it like everybody was on the rail, like either like wanting him to win or just like anti-sweating the fuck out of him?
He had a lot down on that bracelet bet, if I recall. I think it was like...
It was to win one no limit?
Yes. Well, any bracelet.
Any bracelet. Was he playing mixed or...
I mean, he for sure was playing PLO. I don't know if he was firing the other mixed stuff or not. But I think that he was guaranteed to make $1 million minimum if he had won the bracelet, and he was late odds for sure. But I don't know like how long the odds actually were. It was Dur. It was 2013. Like he probably didn't get a super sick price.
Right, because he was just the guy.
Yeah, but yeah, I would imagine he had a few $100,000 down on his side to make a couple million. That would have been wild. I don't even remember. It was so long ago, man.
That guy was the Iceman.
Yeah.
He froze him.
Yeah.
That shirt didn't even have holes in it
that's
back
right.
when that was going on.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody said that Galfond did a 15-minute biopic on Isildur that's worth watching. I haven't seen it yet, but it does sound like it did like pretty good numbers. So maybe that's worth watching, seeing kind of more of the rise and fall. And I imagine that only scratches the surface. Like who knows what was happening behind the scenes. So yeah, we'll see how this ends up shaking out. I wanted to one more thing. Nope, we already did it. Okay. All right.
He did it.
Since Guapo's feeling himself today, let's have him get in the muck.
Yeah.
Well,
Guapo!
you'll never guess who's in the muck again.
You have to take it as a learning opportunity for growth.
Listen, be careful with that white shirt in the muck. You don't want to get anything on it.
True. All right, let's try to speed run through this one.
You can speed run through the hand. You're not going to speed run through the analysis.
Pretty easy open. Get a defend.
For 2.87, is that just like you click 3/4 pot on WSOP?
Yeah, something like that.
Got yourself a high equity hand there.
So we're pretty happy with our flop. Gets checked over to me. And because I want to start checking back some stronger parts of my range, I decide to check this one back. I think the machine's still going to be okay with this. So we check back, and we get an ace of diamonds on the turn. Our opponent checks, and this is where I started to get a little bit confused. I decide to bet, but I'm honestly not sure if I'm betting for value or if this is a bluff, or my basic brain is just saying I have decent hand, put in decent money.
That's probably what's going on. But how decent is the hand if we're not sure if we're value betting or bluffing?
Yeah. So yeah, this is where it starts to get off the rails. And our opponent check raises.
All right.
2 options, either jam or call. And I decide to just call.
I like that one. There was one correct choice.
I thought I had to.
There was one incorrect choice.
And things get even more confusing now when our opponent decides to check. Well, I have bottom pair, and I don't know what to do here. I'm not exactly sure that if I check back here, sometimes I'll see hands like 7-8, hands like
6-8.
Should definitely never see 7-8.
I don't know. Just
6-8.
I didn't want to check back and then have him just see some weird 7 or some weird 6.
So for our audio homies, it's Jack 7 of spades, 5 of hearts on the flop, turn ace of diamonds, river 6 of clubs.
So we find ourselves here, and instead of checking back, I decide to give myself a cheap quote unquote bluff. We go half, and somehow it gets through, and we end up winning the hand. Now, just because we won the hand doesn't necessarily mean that I played the hand well, and this is where good old Landon's going to come in and let us know what's up.
So I think before we get to the wizard analysis, it's probably important to understand the bigger points of why you're in the muck in this particular instance, which may not be abundantly clear to the audience or yourself. Which of these decisions do you think are potentially going to be scrutinized the most?
I think the river was probably the biggest mistake, and then I think on the turn, I think when I find myself in spots in general where I don't know what to do, I generally rely on just being aggressive, as I believe that just being aggressive tends to be more profitable. And I think in the turn here, I think our hand plays better as a check. But I think my biggest mistake was on the river.
Interesting.
I
Okay,
think it's a turn.
I think strategically, the turn mistake is significantly larger from a strategy standpoint, not from an EV standpoint. I do think that the river decision is a bigger torch from an EV standpoint, just because you can check down and win whenever you check back on the end. And when you choose to bet a hand that I'm assuming is pure checking, you're foregoing the pot share that it owns, and now you're just reliant strictly on fold equity against better. So I think from an EV standpoint, you're sacrificing way too much EV by betting a hand that just wins some portion of the pot whenever you check back. But from a strategic standpoint, i.e. the why, I think your turn decision to bet your hand is one that will be very difficult to overcome and will show up in your win rate more, like show up negatively in your win rate more frequently.
Now
Can I put you on the spot a little bit? What do you think the hope I'm not just saying words here.
Go ahead.
What do you think the EV difference is going to be between me checking and then me deciding to bet? Like, am I just torching, or?
Yeah, I think you're probably just torching. So what's the pot on the end?
Let's take
like
$46.
$46. Okay, so I would imagine King 5 probably has like 20% pot share here. So it's probably worth something in the neighborhood of $9 to check back. And I would imagine that it has, for half pot, I would imagine it has less than 20% fold equity.
Are you talking about the turn size?
No, river.
Oh, okay.
So on river, when we check back, we just earn probably somewhere around $9 if we have 20% pot share. By betting, I would imagine that we don't return the same 20% pot share when we bet half pot, because what ends up happening is the same hands that we already beat just fold. They never call, but sometimes they bluff. So now some of the hands that would have just lost to us checking back actually turn themselves into bluffs, which now forces us to fold and costs us that additional bet. So the EV loss of that additional bet, plus the EV loss of the pot share that we already had. And then that's going to be true, too, of everything that's better. Either they're going to call with better or they're going to raise better, which means now we lose the additional percentage of that bet we just made that doesn't work. So I would estimate we're probably losing like $2 by betting on the end, somewhere in that neighborhood, which is pretty significant in a pot of 46. You know, you're losing like 5% pot share,
okay,
which seems pretty bad. But the bigger takeaway that I think is important is the turn.
So what do you think, like, his hand classes should be, like, that decide to bet turn and decide to check turn, and like why?
Right. So it works the inverse in position than it would out of position.
Okay.
What I mean by that is out of position, you would generally, actually, that's not even true. Maybe it works very similarly. So out of position, if you have a pair plus flush draw, you're probably pretty inclined to check call. Now, they'll check raise some of the time because the worse your pair is, the less showdown value it actually has.
Yeah.
But
like betting and then getting raised big is like sucks really bad when you're out of position.
Right. Right. So when we're looking at like what hands out of position is check raising here, it's always going to start with combo draws, like when you're talking about non-made hands, right? And then it'll it'll go down to the pair plus type of hands, the weaker that they are. When you're in position, the opposite becomes true. You want to bet pair plus when it's on the higher side, right? If we have like top pair plus flush draw, we're just strictly betting for value.
Right.
When we have bottom pair with a flush draw, getting raised sucks.
Is this kind of like when you bet, you're getting called by better and worse is folding kind of situation? Or
Well, not just that, you are forgetting that you closed the action, right?
So now you're reopening the action.
Choosing to reopen the action is a big deal.
Right.
Right? Because you're doing it. I think people just take for granted that their opponents don't have a complete strategy. So when I bet, I'll only face call or fold. And that might be true at some frequency.
You kind of get conditioned that way because you just don't see check raises coming through at the frequency they should.
Right. So they don't happen often enough, but they fucking happen because every single action has a specific strategic reaction, regardless of if your opponents choose to take it or not.
And then when they do, and you're sitting with a hand like that, it hurts. It's painful
because you made an error.
Yeah.
So I think the underlying why behind the bet on the turn is the biggest issue in this overall hand when we're talking about like why is Guapo in the muck. Looking at a hand like King 5 of spades after checking back flop and then choosing to bet on an ace of diamond turn is simply saying like, well, my hand could have bet on the flop and now this card is good for me, therefore it has to bet now.
Right.
And that's not the way we should be looking at things.
Was that your thought process, Guapo?
It is,
Sorry, bro.
yeah. No, it is.
Right. So the reason we didn't want to bet the flop, or we don't always want to bet the flop, I should say, is because we're not going to bet this flop at a super high frequency. It's probably going to be like a 50-50 bet check split, right? And we need to have some hands that can improve in our check back range.
And to be fair, this 6 months, a year ago, this is just a must bet.
Auto
this
C
is just
bet.
100%.
Yeah, because it plays very easily through the betting line, right? But the problem is like your check back range really begins to suffer. And honestly, you'd probably rather bet a hand like 6-5 because it now gets to barrel through on cards that aren't really great for your range.
6-5 of spades.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is Mr. Feeney the one that's really in the muck here?
Why?
For not following.
His opponent?
Yeah. For not following through river or like.
We don't know what his hand is. I mean, probably though.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
It's not that he shouldn't have any check folds. He should. But against half pot, we probably could deduce that he doesn't.
Yeah.
You know? Which means that he probably took a hand like 6-8, check raised it on the turn, rivered the 6, and thought he had enough showdown value. Yeah. So he checked it. And now Guapo's play becomes kind of genius that way. But, you know, that's just an error. 6-8's a pure bluff on the end.
Yeah.
So, again, going back to the underlying strategy of turn, what we have to ask ourselves is why do we want to reopen the action on this ace, right? And the answer becomes because our range, portions of our range that check back went up in value, right? But when we start to examine what those portions are, they're going to be check back nut flush draws, check back ace high over cards like ace king, ace queen type of hands that we chose not to c bet, turn 2 pairs, and then like you know, like turned gut shots that we check back with our king queens, our queen tens, etc. Right? Look at how that range is shaping up. It's quite polar in nature. We don't say to ourselves like, "Oh, I checked back a jack. I checked back jack 10, and now the turn's an ace. I have to bet for value." Right? Your jacks are going to still mix because it's a hand class beneath. It's reduced its hand class equity wise.
Yeah.
On the flop, it was near top hand class, right? We have sets at the top, then we have overpairs, and then we have jack X, right? But now on the turn, we have sets at the top, ace X, overpairs, and now jack X.
Yeah, overpairs to the jack.
Correct.
Obviously.
Yeah, sorry.
Can't have an overpair.
Right.
But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Right? So like now the hand classes have shifted and our mindset has to shift as well. If we're recognizing like, well, I don't really want to bet kings if I check them back on the flop when this card comes off, because I'm not betting for protection's sake. I'm not really extracting value from much outside of a jack that checked twice or some draws, and getting check raise sucks. So whenever we start to think in that capacity, now we recognize like, I don't want to bet any middling equity draws either, right? I want to bet hands that benefit from fold equity, or I want to bet hands that get immediate value now. And bottom pair doesn't qualify even if it's backed up by a spade draw. Make sense? Right? So like we would happily bet 9-10 that we checked back on the flop. And I don't care if it's of spades or not, right? Like if we delayed with 9-10 and the turn comes an ace, well, that's a nice hand that fits into our bluffing category. If we get check raised and we have 9-10 of spades, easy continue. If we get check raised and we have 9-10 of diamonds, easy fold, right? We want to give ourselves very easy decisions while making our opponent have to juggle difficult decisions with different portions of their range. So the driving force behind putting money into the pot has to, at the end of the day, be where we fall in our equity distribution. And
That's the big takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah, and the easiest way to quantify that is where does our hand fit into our hand classes, right? Because that's always going to be a hierarchy. It's going to be linear top to bottom. Now we can look at the machine. Machine says,
Sort of.
Sort of.
Well, some points correct, some points.
Machine says
less so.
disregard everything Berkey just
No,
said.
no. He's got some good ones.
I'm kidding.
So like for flop as Guapo, we're gonna go B67 or check. And when we do choose the bigger size as the board is more connected, you don't want to be range betting anymore. So you can't just range bet 67. And something that you can do is you can look at ranges and see EV. So this is the EV of the button. And if I remove check node, so right now it's 2.96. And now if we remove it, so it's a range bet, it goes to 2.68. So you lose roughly a small blind in a little bit if you just only bet 67% and never find a check back.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot.
So my check back is okay.
Check back is pure.
it's pure.
So when we look back at the strategy, we'll see here King 5 wants to check as you have a 5. And then you want to have some flush draws sometimes. When it comes to the hands, we are checking back as you. We are mostly checking back the nut flush draws. It's kind of finicky. It's very odd. We're like ace 5's in a check with the pair, which is nice. Sometimes you can bet with the nut flush draw, sure. Ace 6 is going to mix, right? You're never going to have anything perfect. But when you have ace queen, ace king with overcards, you have so much equity that you're cool with just going B67 and then protecting your nut flush draws with hands like ace 10 of spades to have some backdoor
You're saying the
protection.
ace king of spades specifically bets, but not the ones without the flush draw.
Correct. Just because your hand value kind of gets wrecked facing some aggression.
Wow, that's
on
weird.
later
I was
notes.
thinking about that backwards. So when I have hands like ace king of spades, I think I would prefer checking. This is going to sound strange, but I would prefer checking that back because
Well, you check it
my
back.
hand is just going to be better than their hand a lot of the time. And when I have a hand like
That's
ace
why you
five,
bet.
That's why you bet. Yeah, I was gonna say. So like your hand, your equity is so high that you want to start building the pot.
Right. And when I have a hand like ace 4 of spades or ace 3 of spades, if I barrel with these hands, they're going to fold hands like ace 6, ace 8, ace 10. Am I just crazy?
You're not crazy because your logic makes sense. At the same time, when you have a hand as good as ace king of spades, you don't really want to be using this one to function as your check back because you'd rather your hand just has too much equity, and then checking this back makes your turn and river decisions a little bit easier, but bluff catching with ace king of spades on the end and the check line flop feels like it's a lot more comfortable than using hands like ace 4. But just having that raw card of having a king when you do go for bet, as you see that a lot of our king highs and stuff of that nature are going to check back a lot.
Okay.
It just allows you to unblock a lot of their continues as well. And if you get face check raise, it's kind of nice to just have hands that can call down as well as turn king as well. Because most of the king X's that you do decide to bet, if you face a check raise, are going to fold. So you protect yourself in that way. So now when we look at turn, so you go for check, nice. Ace of diamonds, we'll see the big blind's going to probably play a pretty heavy check strategy here because it's not a good card for him.
Lots of green.
Yeah, so if he does decide to bet, he goes for 2.5x pot. Not surprising, as he's very polar. He's saying he has ace jack. He's saying he has 7s or 5s that couldn't get to check raise in because you checked back. And that's kind of the nice thing about checking back sometimes is you force them to have to find these polar nodes. And then they have their bluffs like combo draws, open-ended, flush draws, and low cards that can potentially make a straight, like a double gutter being 4-3 or 4 deuce of spades for having more equity. So when he goes for check, you are going to... So I edited the size for yours to be P75, but in solver, like pot, because when you're reopening, you're doing what Matt said when it comes to the hands you're choosing to reopen. Like kings, if you mix a check back on flop, you're pure checking because it's middle equity. Your ace X's, you're mostly going to be betting for pot, and then you're betting your bluffs like your gut shots, your high cards, and some of your flush draws. So now when you look at a hand like 10-9 suited, you're mostly going to be checking back as you want to protect yourself on an 8 to have like the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then with 10-9 off, you want to be a little bit more selective blocker-wise when it comes to choosing your combos, but most of the time you're going to bet to flop with a spade.
To be clear, the 10-9 doesn't include spades, right?
No, because it's just too high equity.
Right, we just bet it too often on the flop.
Correct. So it doesn't exist as... There's the in-between when it comes to your range, and it's never easy and it's never perfect, where it's tempting to check it back sometimes because you do want to have those like sneaky hands, but you don't choose the hands with that much equity to be your sneaky hands. You choose like the lower ace X's to be your sneaky hands, as well as pick up some equity on a low card like a 3 or a deuce, where if you always bet the flop with the ace 4s to get ace 10 to fold, when it goes check check and a 3 comes, you're not as protected with your range because you don't have any of that low card coverage. That's probably a little bit why you want to be checking back some of your ace 4s and ace 3s on flop. So we'll see here with king 5, it's straight green. So like I see like the solves in like colors. So like pure green as betting doesn't really serve you very well. But if you have king 4, well, that's no suit because you're mostly going to bet the flop with the king highs. Like what you were talking about when you didn't want to bet your ace king makes more sense for like your king 4s and king 3s that you open on the button. As now, when you go back to the flop strategy, we'll see that they're pure bets. As you get better king highs to fold, you get some ace highs to fold, and then you can check back some of the
bigger
king X
ones.
suiteds. Yeah. King queen's still too good. You have overcards, and you still get called by dominating hands. Like you can bet king queen and still get called by king X backdoor flush draws. Some of the times, depending on their suits, probably like make sure I'm right. Like king 6 suited, maybe hands like this. Yeah, nope. You actually just get them to fold straight, so it's not that great for you when you have king queen. But it looks like they're calling some of the. Where am I trying to find the backdoor combos? I guess it's just ace high. I guess it just has to be ace high. So it feels kind of like unintuitive to me as well to bet a hand like king queen. As like, why do you want to bet king queen of spades? But that's why you check back hearts, as you don't want to get check raised and your hand become really scary and might have to fold or do things along those lines. So we check. Or they check, we bet, and then he goes for his big raise size. And we'll see here this raise size isn't really used very often. Mostly going to go a little bit smaller. But point being, the range of hands that he's going to have when he does go for the polar reopen are going to be the hands you'd expect, like Matt was talking about, being the
6-8 of spades.
Well, 6-8 is mostly going to go for the polar size on turn, right? 6-8 of spades is just going to pure 2.5x pot and say like, what's up?
Yeah.
So when you look at the hands that he's going to want to have some 6-5 for pair plus flush draw, 6-4, the low frequency check to be able to find this line. And you don't want to check call with 6 high with this much equity out of position, because most of the time you're going to miss your combo draw and now be left on the river with 6 high, which is not great. So his reopen is going to be his sets that he didn't bet the turn with
His
himself.
2 pairs.
Sets, ace 7, ace jack is just going to bet the turn for him as it's too good. But same idea, right? You either have a really good hand or you have a combo draw.
Like a drawing hand, yeah.
Correct. And then sometimes you need queen 3 of spades just in case, who knows. So when he raises, your hand's not going to exist. So what I have to do is I guess just node lock a bet for you. Let's just say you're betting half the time. Sometimes you check back. Or are you betting like all the time? I guess all the time. all the time. We'll put all the time.
Wait, sorry. I just wanted to see what the EV of checking down was. It doesn't matter. We can look at it after.
Checking, you mean checking versus betting?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see here that checking the EV is 3.82 and betting is 3.65.
Okay.
So not terribly
No, it's not terrible. It's just like a strategic mistake where it's really hard to fuck up with a pair plus a flush draw unless like you bet and then fold, and then that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about on river. It's okay. This doesn't matter.
This is
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
The turn error is massive because it's a pure check, and it's a massive error strategically, not EV wise. But I think the river mistake is a bigger EV.
So the river's
mistake.
six of clubs, and then the big blind checks. So he is going to have some checks, and the checks are going to come from some of those 6 high. Like I don't know if it's this 6 high, but it's some 6 high, 5-3. Like you don't want to always jam the river or find a bet. Just because when Guapo does call the 125% raise facing the polar reopen strategy, well, relatively polar, you can be selective and scared and have a folding range where you just give up.
Right.
Give ups are just allowed in all streets of poker for both people. And sometimes the effect of the range that you decided to get more fold equity with or more value from are going to be butchered to have a lot more folds on specific rivers, and that's just the game.
Yeah.
With not all fold equity is created equal,
right,
if you will. So he checks. Now we have king 5, and like it's mixing because we kind of got here, and it's like, well, some good stuff does happen where he does check a 6, and like we get that to fold, which is sick. But like 6-4 folds, like we're betting 50% pot and he's folding 75% of the time.
Yeah.
You know, so he either has like a really good hand that he's somehow got like ultimate sneak with, that he goes to the like check raise and then check, hoping that you're bluffing and then like spring the trap. But we can see that this range is non-existent as this line is kind of non-existent.
Yeah. Right.
Like the machine's having a tough time figuring out what's going on. So the small,
that's probably a bad sign.
Out of curiosity, was it due to the check raise size?
But yeah, effectively, because
the check raise size is just like non-existent,
it's
right?
just like kind of too big, I think. Look, if I go to, let me just.
What's the theory size?
I just want to check to see if it's 2E.
You're talking about my opponent here?
Yeah. The theory size was like pot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still like the same for 2E. It's like very, very low reopen. I can give pot again and see what it was, because it wasn't very many check raises, because Guapo has really good hands, and
right,
it's very hard for the button. Yeah, it's still 2.2%, right? So it's just hard for the button to reopen when they don't have that many great hands.
You mean big blind?
Sorry, yeah, big blind.
Yeah.
Sorry, because big blind is mostly going to go for this strategy here on the turn. So what I can expect to happen is, like, if we just call it play a game of, I don't think that people are going to go for 2x pot here, and let's just say they want to protect and like sneak more with the sets. I think it's like relatively reasonable. So if we give them a range check on the turn, we're going to be a lot more careful about how we put chips in the pot, because now we're checking back a ton and we're betting very polar, like Matt was talking about, where you have ace-x, good hand, you have bluff equity, or you just have like stone, absolute dog shit, bad hand. Like you have king deuce of clubs. And you're
right,
like, well,
just mandatory.
You're like, well, like I hope you fold something because my hand really stinks.
Yeah.
But now when we go B75, his check raise is going to be bolstered by having all of the hands that he did not go for the polar.
I think this is much more reasonable, by the way.
To look at this for the spot, sure.
Yeah.
And I thought this would be the case, but now we'll see king 5 still checks,
right?
Because this is an issue,
right?
Because now you don't get raised often, but you get check raised. 8-6 is a good one. So we'll have to go back here, go to the node lock, go to set strategy, go to 100, and I'm only gonna go to the king 5 of spades combo because I don't know how much you're opening with the other ones, and probably not. You're just gonna check because you have a 5, and it makes sense. So we bet. And they're like, haha, just kidding, I have a good hand. You're like, all right, like that's fine. Like I have a good hand too. Because like folding's a disaster, right? Calling's worth 6 big blinds, folding is 0. So like, the delta, like you just can't fold pair plus flush draw. You can make almost the nuts. So like that's pretty good. Call, river, 6 of clubs. Like that's pretty bad. Should have asked for the 6 of spades. That was your first mistake. So now like they're still checking a lot, right? They're still checking 36% of the time. And
it's a lot of hands that show down now, though.
It is. There's hands that show down, as well as some of the super sneaks, like the ace jack, where
the ace 6 is a pure check.
Well, ace 6 for him is probably not going to check raise that often on the turn.
Right. But I'm just saying, like ace 6, ace 7 are like pure sneaks now.
Yeah, ace 7's a nice sneak. Ace jack's a nice sneak because it's more likely that Guapo has a flush draw that missed that has to try to put money in himself. So if you do check raise here as big blind, remember to sneak sometimes and not always bet the river. So he goes for check. And now we'll see here, like B40 is mostly used, but King 5 is now a pure bluff in this spot, which is kind of cool.
King 5 is a pure bluff?
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's just because of that 6, like his range, because he check raises more, has a lot more 6x in it. So now you can kind of mix just like a polar reopen of like, hey, I'm all in. Like, I have a really good hand. Like, I have a set of aces. I need my money. Or you have like cheap bluff and you're saying, I hope you fold a 5, or I had a flush draw that missed. But
Landon, can you hover over King 5 of spades real quick?
Yeah, it's mixed.
It's the only one.
It's like literally the only hand that supports this, like, okay, so when you see here, bet 20.6, 50%, like 3.08 combos, like King 5 suited in the bottom over here is like half of the combos. Because you have this, you have ace jack, that's a value bet, and then you have like aces, that's also a value bet. Like your only bluff for this size really is this King 5. Like you kind of got here and
Right, like basically if King 5 wasn't here, it would find one of these other hands to force into this node. It would probably find like I don't know. I mean, we're moving through too quick for me to find hands, but
sorry.
It would just be some other bottom. It's your worst hand, basically.
It is your worst hand because you have it here, and you are getting a lot of benefit from going for the B50.
But it's also when he gets check raised on the turn, he doesn't have any more non-pair hands on the end because he's only calling, like he should only be bet calling like combo draw hands. So 9-8 got there, 10-9 shouldn't exist.
He being Guapo as the button.
Correct.
Yeah, he's like King 10 of spades.
So now King 5 is absolute bare bottom of range.
Yeah, and
right?
then King 5 of spades goes for a jam.
Right, yeah, and it's just a byproduct of having should not have been included in the betting range to begin with. Like, had he bet 10-9 of spades, that would be the bare bottom. That would be what jams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically kind of making this B50 because aces here is such a good hand and you want them to do something that it's bucketing to have ace jack and aces get some value. So anyways, we see like a lot of good stuff happen with King 5 as you do get that 6x to fold, like Queen 6, 6-8, 6-4, 6-3. But you kind of force your own hand when you bet the turn, as now you've given yourself a new bottom of range.
Yeah, I think the other
So the biggest mistake here was the turn.
The biggest mistake here was definitely betting the turn.
Yeah, it's for sure not even close. I think the other interesting thing was to see how tightly Guapo value bets on the end when check too, because so much of that out of position range now has to check trap.
Right.
Like ace 5 doesn't value bet. 6-5 doesn't value bet. Those hands are pure checkbacks now. And that's a byproduct of ace 6, ace 7, ace jack having to do so much checking now to correct for the fact that they weren't really supposed to reopen the turn.
Right. And you kind of get into this weird cat and mousey game where if they always bet the river with their good hands, is your ace 5 even, you can't really jam as you're targeting such a weak portion.
Right.
So you probably should bucket down to B50 again to hope for a 6x like spaz.
That's what you're targeting.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you're just hoping that like you get the 6x to check raise jam now instead of folding.
Right. But then the issue is like it kind of the line does not make sense anymore.
Right.
As you check raise, checked, and like all of your strong hands are mostly going to barrel the river for the big blind. Like we'll see here.
Well, this is where street poker comes in. I don't think there's a whole lot to analyze here.
Sure. Like 6-8, like you're just piling, right? You're just saying like, okay, I have it. And then you're having some sets and stuff. You say, I have it, but I don't have all of it.
Right.
So a little bit smaller.
Well, thank you guys.
You're welcome.
I think that was an interesting one. I think the turn error is an easy one for people to make, specifically because it feels so non-intuitive to check back the flop.
Yeah.
So they feel like they missed a street and they have to recapture that street now on the turn. Where in irony, it's a pure check back on the flop and then just a follow through with another pure check back on the turn, right? So I do think that understanding hand classes and how the equities shift based off of turn and river distributions is really, really critical to developing an overall strategy. And I think this is a great example of how easy it is to let that go awry based off of just how valuable you believe a hand to be in the moment, right? Pair plus flush draw, pretty good. Tough to fuck up, right? So just bet it. And that tends... yeah, and that's what I'm getting at.
That used to be my mindset, though.
That tends to just be a lazy mindset.
Yeah.
Interesting one. Very interesting one.
It was cool. It was fun hand.
If you guys find yourself in the muck and you would like to see a hand analyzed on stream by the child of the sim himself, head over to our Discord channel. You can find it at Solve4YTV. It's our pinned comment, or you can hit hashtag Discord in the chat. follow that link. We have a forum dedicated to In the Muck submissions. We haven't done one in a while, so we'll definitely pull one out this week.
You get a Becker one.
Yeah, thank you guys all so much for submitting those. Speaking of the man of the hour, let's talk a little bit about JBex. So this is what everybody's here for. We buried the lead.
Shout out to Bro for 6th in the Venetian.
The World Series schedule came out last Friday, and Uncle Daniel was out in the Twitter streets. Bro's just online.
He's chronically online.
He is just fucking online, man. He is in his online era.
Online era.
And he put out a tweet that said, might offer a spicy little free roll, and he went through a list of fun matchups that it was such fucking bait. The whole thing was such fucking bait. It was such obvious bait too, because it wasn't like he didn't mention the word crossbook. He just said a few off the top of my head that would be fun matchups for people to pick. Jonathan versus Berkey, JBex versus Landon, Chrissy B versus Maria. Which, by the way, I don't know if people see what's going on here, but like, okay, so me versus Jonathan, like he wants to pit us against one another in some capacity. JBex, Landon, they're both two young guys,
up-and-comers,
very different strategies. What the hell? What's going on? Are we under attack? So obviously it's like two young guys who come from differing approaches with being an online savant who's grinding sims versus somebody who's playing like live dailies and mostly just a field player. And then we get to the Chrissy B Maria Ho matchup, and it's kind of like, what are we talking about here? Like, other than them being women, what do they have in common? What the hell is this?
This is fucking hilarious. That's what this is.
What?
Landon, this is for you.
Oh, based.
What is this? Enlighten us.
It's a dog that says heel on it.
By the way, we just got... I can't explain to you what just happened.
We just got absolutely ambushed. He said, hey, Conrad.
Who was it?
I don't know. Some guy. He had a mask on, and he dropped
mask on?
He dropped this bad boy off.
He was banging the door, ringing the doorbell, like...
Very obnoxious.
Very annoying.
D-Nex just absolutely ambushed us.
Okay, what did Uncle Daniel send us?
Hashtag TPK. Landon, sorry to hear...
TPK, what does that mean?
I don't know. Hashtag, anyways, sorry to hear about the upcoming demise to your bankroll.
Wow.
Hope this brightens your day. Sincerely, Team JBex.
Wow.
That is fucking hilarious.
The balloons.
Congrats, Daniel. You won this no matter what.
The black balloons are nice.
I need to hold on. I need to get this handwriting analyzed to know who it is.
I want to know what TPK is.
Me too.
That is definitely Daniel.
Top pair, top kicker?
No.
I don't know. All right, so read it one more time for the team.
Landon, sorry to hear about the upcoming demise to your bankroll. Hope this brightens your day. Feel better. Sincerely, Team JBex.
Okay.
Just look at this dog. What kind of dog is this?
It's a
nice one.
Yeah, I don't know.
It looks like a Boston Terrier.
There you go. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
We'll go with that.
What was that fucking one that bit my hand?
Oh yeah.
Josh's dog.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was like,
that was one of the funniest things that has ever happened to us.
it was very disruptive.
I was like terrified.
Okay.
I was like, who's that at our door?
That's exactly what they wanted.
I know.
It was
They
perfect
got what they
timing.
wanted.
It was great.
Clearly they're outside watching the stream because they waited for the segment to start before they actually came and knocked on the door.
That's actually really funny.
I just
Jesus
watched,
Christ, man.
I just watched. I think it was called Lover Stalker Killer. It's
I saw it.
You watched it?
Yeah.
Fucking creepy, right?
Yeah.
So when this shit just happened, I'm like, I'm ready to jump out the window.
We just got stream sniped.
I appreciate that you guys are all so protective of your lives. I'm so over it.
Yeah, well,
If you want me,
some
you
of us
got
still
me.
have some stuff to live for.
Don't
Berk.
worry, I'll protect you. I'll jump on the grenade. All right, so I find the Maria Chrissy thing to be funny because outside of being women, I don't see any commonalities. Maria plays mix, Chrissy doesn't. Chrissy plays high rollers, Maria doesn't. Like, I think the likelihood that these two play more than 5 events that overlap is so low that it's like a ridiculous matchup in and of itself. Chidwick versus Seth Davies, I think that makes sense. They both play high rollers. Chewy versus Shulman is kind of funny to me because they're both very good friends. Kuhn versus Foxen because they have muscles, I guess. Helmuth Ike because of Maskgate. Eli versus Bonomo, obviously, like, can't help himself.
Yep.
Matisal versus Glance, political, and Brewer versus Amati. I guess because they just both play high rollers, it'd be interesting to watch. I don't know. Anyway, clearly this whole fucking tweet was bait. Like it was 100%. It was definitely for social engagement, which was inevitable. Like he's not dumb. He knows what's going to get clicks, but it was very, very clear if you go back to the list, like there were 2 people on there that were very likely to take the bait and say book it.
Yeah.
And it was going to be me and Landon.
Yep.
For sure. And the thing that Daniel doesn't know about me that maybe you all do, having watched the show plenty, is that I just cannot be bothered to play MTTs.
You hate tournaments.
Like I'm sorry, I just don't.
Right.
I don't enjoy it.
Right.
I'll play a handful. But I'm certainly not betting on myself, and I wouldn't advise anybody else to bet on me either. It's why I was like so hard up trying to get like long odds for a bracelet bet last year, because like for me to even, first of all, me trying isn't going to be good. Like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, so like trying hard isn't going to help.
Let me ask you a question. What odds would you take right now on a bracelet bet?
25-1.
I bet you right now, you hit up Uncle D-Negs, he'll slide in.
I don't think he will.
He might.
Oh, you said you're calling his bluff.
Yeah,
huh?
I don't think he will.
Nah, he
not
wouldn't?
at 25-1.
Right.
But yeah, I would take 25-1 for a reasonable bet. Like if I can get rich, I can learn MTTs. But if I can't get rich, I have no desire to learn MTTs. Shout out to Corey Nordstrom, member for 15 months. We appreciate you, my guy. He says I have a bigger cash than JBex, biggest, and I'm oh god damn it.
Don't do it.
Man, I just take the bait. I just take the bait every time.
No.
No, I'm not going to say
I'm
it.
going to say it because Corey's my dude. He said, I mean, even I have a bigger cast than JBex. JBex is biggest. And I'm always crippled. You got this, Lando. So if you guys don't know, my friend Corey is in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Shout out to Corey. We love Corey.
Corey's actually the guy that in the middle of the bomb type threat thingamajiggy, he's just sitting in the WSOP just chilling.
Yeah.
What's up, Corey?
Well,
He had a getaway
Corey.
car.
Yeah.
He's fine. All right, so fast
funny.
forward to the bait being taken. Landon, of course, the prop bet master, lets no time slip by. It's
Yeah,
just,
Daniel actually talked about that today on his Dad Poker podcast.
oh, we got a clip?
Yes, we do.
Roll it.
And one of them I put together Jeremy Becker versus Landon Tice. Okay? I'm going to get there. I promise. There's no beef between those two.
Yeah, I didn't think
I put it together because when you look at it, I think it's a really interesting, matchup. You've got, the GTO studied guy versus the guy who doesn't own a computer, has never looked at a solve, just plays live and crushes, right? Obviously, over 20, 30 events, it's kind of meaningless, but we're going to have an opportunity to follow this narrative. And people are going to put way too much emphasis on what actually happens. But we have the ultimate argument. Why did I put them together? I put them together in a matchup because I didn't think it would happen within 7 minutes, but I expected, and this wasn't, I didn't offer a crossbook or whatever. I expected them to get riled up by the matchup. And within 10 minutes, Landon says, crossbook, my DMs are open. Don't have a problem.
Well, 7 minutes could have been. It was actually kind of slow for me.
Yeah, I agree. That's 6.5 minutes of very mindful thought of can we make this happen?
Had to run it by the.
The good news is you're not offering 9 big blinds per 100 or any sort of ridiculous spot. The even better news is that the betting public is very, very heavily on JBex side.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about being a pawn in Uncle Daniel's scheme to end the sim?
Solver dog.
Solver dog. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of expected, I suppose, when it comes to the Twitter following that Daniel has, as well as the way that most people see the game as the machine not translating to live poker.
It's also what people see online. They just, every time they're scrolling through, poker Twitter, they just see Jeremy's face with the 3-5 in front of a bunch of chips. Right?
Well, I think
so. I think guy wins a lot of tournaments.
I think there are two sides to this bet, and both have a lot of validity.
I love the thumbs up every time.
He has gotten very good at winner photos.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I think that it is worth acknowledging that live experience is definitely worth something. I don't know to what degree it's worth whenever we're quantifying things. I just know that I've been around long enough to recognize like there's a group of people that qualify as winners, and there are a group of people that are trying and struggling their hardest to get into that other group. Now, whether or not JBex is proven enough to be put into that corner or not yet, it remains to be determined. But he has carved out a niche within the MTT space that he's very good at, right? Like over the last year and a half, he has just obliterated dailies. And he's put himself in position to do pretty well in other, call it mid-stake buy-ins. Like I know his biggest score was like 52,000. I think it was at the Venetian. He just final tabled this 1,600 event yesterday. Got sixth for 24,000?
Yeah.
Sixth place?
Yeah. First was over 100.
Maybe
160.
Or 1600.
160.
Keep talking. Keep talking dirty to me. I might actually get out there and play with these things. Oh, man. But with that being said, you know, obviously his volume is incredibly high. His volume of buy-ins is incredibly high, even though the price point is relatively low based off of unlimited reentry and everything else. None of this is to take away from what he's done. The fact that he has 1.5 million in earnings and his biggest score is 52K is fucking impressive.
Wow.
Like
He's
that,
1.5 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is a man on the grind. And to
He
give
can
you
catch you soon.
well, to give you a comparison, he has twice as much as Landon's Hendon, which is like 790, and Landon's biggest score was somehow the first tournament he played for like 212K, right? So Landon's biggest score makes up like, I don't know, a quarter of his all-time earnings, whereas JBex's biggest score makes up like 30% or 3%, sorry, of his all-time winnings, right? So big difference here. This bet, though, becomes pretty fascinating because obviously the sample size is relatively small, but the stakes are incredibly high. Oh, man.
You're
I'm dying. I'm dying.
So
Jeez.
D-Negs just said it wasn't him. We have an anonymous sender.
Okay.
JBex got fans.
Maybe it's JBex himself.
So let's talk a little bit about the stakes, and then we'll talk about the side market that's kind of being created. What ultimately was agreed upon was a crossbook here, where you guys are crossbooking 100% of each other's action. Now, I know that you guys still have some details to iron out. For MTTs, I think it's simplest if it's just on straight cashes and you don't worry about buy-ins, because you guys are playing you guys have qualified that it's mutually played. So basically, it's never going to make that big of a difference if you're talking about like a $1,500 event where somebody cashes for 100K and they're in for 6 bullets and you're in for 1. It's like, what's the difference when it all shakes out? You know what I mean? So the easiest way to track, especially, I think you guys agreed on doing non-WSOP events as well?
Yeah, it's everything.
Right. So
It's just 25 mutually played events during the summer, or as long, I guess, as
It's
it
at
takes.
least 25, right?
At least 25 to cash out. Yeah.
Yeah.
right, but there's no cap on, like, if you guys play 70 mutually played events, they all count.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Right.
Okay, so mutually played events, 100% crossbook, and you guys are putting some limiting factor to prevent the outliers.
I guess
right?
25 is like for if the winner or the loser wants to stop. I
Correct.
think.
Yeah. At 25 mutually played, I assume one party
And
could
then like
quit.
it could be 26, 27, because like let's say someone gets to 25 and then he's like, hey, like, are you guys done? And it's like yes or no. It's like no, and if Daniel wants to keep the crossbook on, just keep it on. until-
Right. My assumption would be that after you guys have played 25 mutually played events, from that point on, every event thereafter is a one-off. So it's either yes, no, on, off, on, off, on, off.
And that's what it's supposed to kind of be for this, because of the potential ways to angle or see that someone's chip leading and then you didn't get in the tournament yet, so then you don't play, or someone's chip leading a tournament that they were going to play, so now they can't play it.
Right.
So there's ways to like not finesse the system.
I mean,
but-
there are, but like they're really, really small fractional edges that are also hurting your own bottom line at the end of the day, right? Like if you choose not to play the Millie Maker because JBex bagged chip lead day 1A, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
That's
you know,
true.
like you're sacrificing a fair amount of ROI in a really profitable event based off of potential downside of him having a cashable stack, right? Anyway, point being, when it's all said and done, for those of you who don't understand what a crossbook is, usually what it means is that the net difference between one person's buy-ins and the other person's profits is paid out. So if for instance Landon plays $50,000 worth of events and cashes for 0, and JBex plays the same events and cashes for $50K, then technically Landon would owe him $100,000. Generally, my understanding is when it comes to MTTs, if they're both playing the same events, you just don't count the buy-ins, right? So it ends up just being like...
You mean if he profits for 50,000?
Yes, sorry.
Yes. Right?
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Right, so see how it gets confusing? So if you just do net cashes, it becomes a lot simpler, which means that if Landon plays 25 events and JBex plays the same 25 events and JBex cashes for $50,000 more than Landon, then Landon would owe JBex another $50K,
Right.
or owe DNegs
It's the difference
$50K.
between it's just the difference between their P&L,
Plus
right?
minuses.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
should just never have. It should always be net, because first of all, like somebody would have to show you receipts for like how many buy-ins they were in for, and that could easily be
Right, gross, not net.
Gross, sorry,
Net would imply that you're subtracting.
Yeah,
buy-ins.
sorry, gross.
Yeah.
So like that can easily be begazeled.
I mean, it's not that it could easily be done. It's just annoying to have to track everything all throughout town,
Well,
right? Like
so
you're going to get less transparency from the Venetian, from the Win, from like the Nugget or whatever. Like it's an annoying Santa tracker type of thing.
Yeah, you'd have to go to like literally each person. Landon would have to go ask for JBex records, basically.
Right.
Well, no, we
Or-
would just
Also,
we
I
would
don't
just get
think-
each other. Basically, the way we were going to do it is we get a spreadsheet, and it's a mutual spreadsheet. So there's one sheet that's his, one sheet that's mine, and then at the end of the summer, whenever the crossbook is over, to just double check the numbers, we just go to all the casinos that we played and ask for the report.
That just sounds like too much work. There's just no point of that. For like, there's no
Right,
point of
because-
tracking buy-ins.
Right, because Hen and Mob will already do all that work for you when it comes to caches. And that's all that truly matters.
And you guys are both going to fire infinite, so it doesn't.
So what you're
matter.
saying, for like the way that you see it being a lot easier and less messy, is if I cash for 0, but Becker cashes for 100K, he just gets 100K.
Correct.
Yes.
Instead of getting like, let's say I'm stuck 50. I'm stuck 50 for the summer. He doesn't get 150.
Well, he wouldn't anyway because he also put up buy-ins,
Yeah.
Right.
right? Those caches are gross. They're not net. They're not taken
does make
against
it-
his buy-ins.
It does make it cleaner because
It makes it so much cleaner. Now the only thing you guys have to verify is did both of you play the event. So now the spreadsheet just has a yes/no tick to it of all the events listed, and then you guys tick yes or no whether or not you played it.
right.
Right now, all you have to do is cross-reference if they both played. If the answer is yes, then we pay the difference one
It's
way
like-
or the other.
Yeah, it's like kind of brutal to not or to go through the whole.
And the thing is like no matter how many different iterations you run to the extremes, the actual buy-in portion, it won't ever account for a lot of win rate one way or the other.
Of like being in for 1 versus in for 4, because sometimes I'll be in for 4, he's in
Right.
for 1.
Yeah,
Right.
It doesn't matter.
It's just there. It'd have to be like a one-of-one outlier event where like he's only in for 1 bullet the entire summer and you're in for max bullets the entire summer, and now your buy-ins are like triple his. In which case now he would, if he beat you in the crossbook, he'd be afforded a lot more win rate. But that's just like so improbable to happen, and it's a use case that's not worth dealing with. It's just way easier to wash the buy-ins and only track the caches. So I would just go by Hen and Mob if I were in charge of like setting rules for this.
Right.
But in any event, those are the basic outlines of the of the crossbook, and you don't have to crossbook 100%. You could crossbook more than 100%. You could crossbook way less than 100%. So,
Have there been any like notable instances of crossbooking more?
like
Like 500%.
yeah, yes, for sure. A lot of guys,
On smaller stake things,
yeah,
right? So
when
Sean D won the. Didn't he have a huge crossbook when he won the
lodge.
Was it the Lodge or
Yeah.
Turning Stone?
Oh, Turning Stone too as well,
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, like back before high rollers existed, like the early J Merce days, a lot of those guys, when they would go play 1Ks or 1500s, they would find people to crossbook, 100%, 200%, 300%, whatever. First place is 30,
100,000?
40K,
Or, yeah,
50K,
there you go.
whatever. And they can get like a 200% crossbook. Well, now they can make an additional 100K on the side if they ship it. So yeah, there's all, there's all, I mean, this is kind of like what Timex would do, except his version of crossbooking would charge you a markup. right? Like he would make you buy yourself at 1.x. So if you wanted, if you wanted 150% of yourself in some major event coming up, like the main event's a great example. People used to buy more of themselves at like 2.0, 2.5 off of Timex.
Wow.
Which was, very risky on his behalf because if they ever hit, I'm sure he capped like how much of themselves they could buy, but still, if you're selling like 10, 15, 20% of a good player and they happen to go on and final table or rip it off, like that's a lot of money to have to shell out. So anyway, when it's all said and done, you guys landed on a crossbook. You did some downside risk management. So right now it's capped at 250K
per event
as the score. As the biggest score per event.
Potentially to be updated because of some of the bigger buy-ins that we're going to play, but have to work out all the details.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I asked, I was like, okay, so like it's just two. I thought it was capped. The whole thing was capped at 250K. Like you could only win or lose throughout the summer. But and Berkey informed me that that's per event. So I mean, if someone goes off to win a couple bracelets or win a couple events, this could add up very quickly.
That could hurt bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we've seen it before. I've had a $500,000 summer before, and I didn't even win a bracelet. We've seen multiple bracelet winners. But the thing is with the multiple bracelet winners, it's almost certainly never a no-limit guy. Mm-hmm. It's almost always going to be somebody who like wins a small PLO, wins a mixed event, whatever. The exception being most recently was Scott Ball. But even his 2 wins, I think one of them was a pretty big buy-in.
It was a 5K and the 1 drop.
Right.
The
so the 1 drop obviously is like a massive field. Get through $500,000 first kind of thing.
You also don't have to win them to have a really, really huge summer. I mean, look what Chance did last summer. I don't know how many he won, but I know he was just huge score after huge score after huge score.
Yeah, so I have no idea what Chance cashed for last year.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah.
But he's playing high rollers.
Yeah, so our buy-in at the moment is capped at 10K and under, but I mean if he's playing
so you do have a cap on the buy-in.
If he's playing 25K heads up, I'm sure that'll get in there too.
Well, you have to specify.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I don't know if he's playing it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would specify those things obviously. There's a lot of small details to iron out, but I think you guys have plenty of time to figure it out and it's all going to be fun. This is a fun sweat for everybody at home. We've kind of lost the bracelet bets over the last 10 years or so. So like this finding variations of picking a handful of players out in the field, finding ways to crossbook them is really fun. A pretty big side market has developed, and it's kind of interesting because I'm not sure with the people who are getting money down how they're going about it. I saw Chance put out a tweet. I think he was looking to take a 10% crossbook between the two of you, or maybe I'm fabricating 10%.
I think it was up to 20%.
Okay, up to 20. I couldn't remember. I just knew he said less than 100. And I'm pretty sure that got filled by Dom, if I saw correctly in his timeline. I know that there are a bunch of other people betting, and it's unclear if there are people who are just taking this bet straight up as well. So I think that side market also has presented itself where it's not a matter of like actually being involved in the crossbook, but just a matter of who's going to win the bet between you and D-Nex.
I think that's a lot of what it is, yeah.
Right. And a lot of that seems to be heavily favored towards Bex because, poker Twitter, especially with Daniel kind of like signal boosting the whole thing, they're all kind of rallying behind their man. And to be fair, like I said this last week, I think Jeremy is one of the best things that can happen to live poker, specifically MTTs, alongside like a Bin Win and maybe a Jesse Lonis. Like these guys having more of a face in the MTT realm when it was for so long these high rollers that are just scrutinizing ICM and really trying to develop the perfect playbook for MTTs. It's nice. It's a breath of fresh air to see guys come out that are just kind of like, my version of work is just putting in a lot of volume live and winning a bunch of shit because 80% of the field is clueless. And the thing is, I think that's the common ground that everybody sits on, right? Like both you and JBex are going to agree that 80% of your opponents are clueless, right? So now it just becomes a matter of how each of you approach vacuuming up the EV that the field is giving away. And you two have very, very conflicting approaches and styles to this, right? Like you're going to be very studied, very sim heavy, very much in the lab. He's probably doing some of that stuff as well, I'm sure.
He doesn't have a computer.
Yeah, well, he has a phone. So I'm sure he's not naive to it, but he's also just going to be in the mix a lot.
D-Negs actually made an interesting throwback comparison, saying this is sort of like Rocky IV, where
I love that he.
The fucking Rocky
Of course, he's gonna.
Bex is like the guy running out in the snow and picking up stones and like going like super old school, whereas
Landon's in the
Landon's like using all the complicated equipment and all the different techniques and just taking injections of Tren, you know.
Of course, he's gonna use that comparison because we know which one won.
Yeah, let me tell you. Let me tell you the real underlying story of Rocky IV. What happened was you had a man who was on steroids go up against another man who was on steroids, and the only difference was
one of them was gonna die.
Yeah,
no, that was.
The only difference is where they chose to train. One of them decided he wanted to be in the snow with a log on his back, and the other one wanted to be hooked up to a bunch of machines and dialed into perfect.
There's Bex. There he is.
Like, yes, will sheer determination and will matter? Yeah, actually, because it's a long fucking 7-week grind, and like being able to show up and show out day in and day out for a lot of these events that may not feel that meaningful in the moment, or being able to sustain long runs of just, not doing shit. Like JBex having to stave off the desire to fire the fucking win daily every day because he hasn't had a W in a few days, knowing that it won't count for the bet, is going to take some patience and persistence, right? And the same holds true for Landon. Like, there hasn't really been a 7-week stretch outside of the WSOP where he's just grinding day in and day out. So there's some prep that goes into that. There's some conditioning that goes into that. My first text to him was not hit the lab, learn your pre-flop, and get yourself, primed for a final table. I trust that he's doing that anyway, right? My text to him was, hey, text the trainer, let him know exactly what you're leading up to right now, and get yourself in physical and mental condition to be able to endure a 7-week grind.
Right.
Because that's going to matter so much, right? Not collapsing under the negative variance, not putting yourself in a position where, you're eating like shit for 7 weeks because you were lazy leading up to it, not being in a position where you're heavier than you would like to be because you weren't putting in the effort into your diet and your lifestyle prior because you were so in the lab. There has to be, it's more important now, I think, to be balanced than it is to be balanced during those 7 weeks.
Maybe
I think during those 7 weeks, you can just blinders on and fucking go.
Maybe you should read A Game Poker by Elliot Rowe.
You guys are on the fucking clock. All right. That book needs to be read.
Yep. I'm sure there's a lot of what you're talking about is in this book.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I told Elliot that I probably don't need to do much reading. I could probably just peruse it and get the gist. He's like, you're not going to find anything new.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious what your plans are as far as going into this whole thing, and divulge as much as you like. But it's interesting to me because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no bad blood between you two. No. This isn't like some sort of
he's like my best friend
hated
now.
rivalry.
He's like my best friend now. I get the crossbook against his action against Daniel. Like, he doesn't really lose much in the sense of he's kind of free rolling a PR statement where it's like, if he wins, he was always supposed to win, and if he loses, it's like, oh, no problem. Like, who really knows? Because in my case, it's like, oh, like I already lost to Perkins. If I lose to Perkins, I lose this one too, type thing. And the funny thing about the difference of MTTs and the small sample, crossbook versus something like the Perkins thing was there's going to be a lot more stuff out of my control in tournaments than there is in a heads up prep versus Perkins.
Yeah.
So, which is mildly ironic where this time, like the main, call it lesson learned that happened prior to like pre-negotiation stuff was like I wasn't as prepared as I could have been. So for this time, it's like I want to be over prepared for learning, call it strategy, learning, call it like some in-game adjustments, learning like call it lifestyle, like health, fitness, whatever, like making sure you can endure the summer.
And you're also not putting yourself in such a huge hole to begin with, like you did with
we're spot free.
Perkins.
We're actually a dog, a public dog. I got some action on me plus 110. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And mostly like those bets are like who's going to cash for more because it's a cleaner bet.
Yeah.
I would imagine, and I'm sure that after going through back and forth, it's probably just going to end up on cashes as that does make a lot more sense.
Don't get me started on Kessler and what his idea of how to bet is.
This guy Listen, if you want the tortoise versus the chainsaw,
That's the matchup.
If that's the matchup you want,
That's the matchup we've all been waiting for.
Listen, okay,
true.
like Kessler, like don't get me wrong, the guy, he's a smart guy, right? He's a really smart guy. He has a very high IQ, but really smart people with high IQs say some dumb shit all the time. I know, I do it all the time, right?
As a fellow intellect yourself.
So he says, I agree, Becker is a huge favorite. Okay,
Huge is
which is
the
fine.
key
He's
word.
completely entitled to his opinion. He's a huge favorite. But then he says that if Landon loses, it's a huge setback for Solve for Why.
Well,
how is it? But wait, hold on. How is it a huge setback for Solve for Why if Becker is the huge favorite to begin with?
Right.
And it's over a very, very small sample size. So like, it doesn't even matter like who wins or who doesn't. It's not really proving anything. So like, I don't get where the hell he's coming from.
His sheer desire to ignore math was so frustrating to me, because here's the thing. It's like, say he's a huge favorite. That's fine. I was thrilled to see that. I'm just like, oh, that was my response. I go, how big is huge?
Yeah.
Are we talking a 1.5 to 1 favorite? A 2 to 1 favorite? What are we thinking here, Alan?
Right.
Set a line for
Right.
me, guy.
Plus 110 is not a huge favorite.
Well, even still, I'll, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
plus 110, plus
I'm not betting.
Right. So then he's just like, well, it's laughable that you're asking for odds. Like, first of all, I'm not asking for odds.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to take advantage of the language that you're
Yeah,
using.
you're the guy saying huge.
Yeah, he's saying the whole Solve for Why crew is asking for odds. It's just like, what are you talking about
He
here?
likes using
You
this
said he's-
adjective of huge, as you see
Yeah.
here.
Oh,
Huge
well-
favorite. It's a huge setback. What
Right.
else is huge?
The big thing is that I want to communicate is that I'm not asking for odds, but by God,
They're being presented.
I'll fucking take them.
Yeah.
Like, if there is a collection of people out there that think Landon is a very large dog and they would like to make a wager
Woof.
and lay me a price, I'm listening.
I'm
I would
I would like
listening.
the part of that as well, Berkey.
I agree. Landon is not even money in this bet.
No.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Slave to the sim.
So, plus 110, plus 120, I could be a buyer at those numbers.
I guess it's funny because like we were talking earlier about I was mildly making a joke about like the more that I don't play live and the more that he like racks up FTs and wins, it's like better for the side market. But the action that I already have down is more than enough of what I need anyways.
Right.
That it's just like, no, like some of the things that I should be doing, and my biggest weakness in my overall, call it poker career, has been like taking the easy money. Like showing up and playing small live tournaments, showing up and putting in volume in that regard, because most of my volume has just been online.
Yep.
Right. So like when it comes to Hendon Mob or whatever, like Hendon doesn't count online caches.
Right.
It doesn't count online results. Right. And Shark Scope's not the greatest metric for all those things. So it's just a matter of like, like this is a good opportunity for me to get into the habit of doing my job. Right.
Yep.
At this point now, being like mostly into the MTTs, I still play cash here and there online from time to time. But like showing up and playing an 1100, showing up and playing a 1600, like after the pod, I'm going to go to the win and play like this 500 one day, and then Win Million starts. And then there's probably another series going on in Vegas. So it's just a matter of putting in a mock WSOP grind, but it doesn't need to be as hard as, okay, here's your tournament, you bust, you got another one tomorrow. More so, take the time you need to do these things, find time to like study a little bit if you can here and there. Find time to get in the gym and like get it like proper sleep, and then come into WSOP just ready to do what I can. And it's one of these things where in this spot, it's a lot different than the Perkins challenge, where I could be playing, call it the 3 months getting into it, as the best poker player I could become in this 3 month span, and still just get absolutely waxed because he wins two things and I lose 2 all-ins. It's like, like, not good for him in a bad way, but just like good for you, like it's not about like hating the guy for winning. Obviously we're going to anti-sweat if he's like making a deep run.
Like, you have to.
Like, just like he's going to anti-sweat when I make a deep run, so it's like part of that fun of like respect to him, and also like we'll kind of see what happens.
I like this because this is like so different than the Berkey airball thing or these other like, you know, where it was just like heated and you know, people said a lot of bad things on one side and other people said a lot of bad things on the other side.
Because it's not coming from a place of like hate, right?
Right. This is just like a mutual like it's like, hey, the friendly competition essentially.
It's cool because like Daniel was saying, we do have different philosophies when it comes to how to become great at poker. You know, and sure there might be a difference of being great at like high rollers or being great at like smaller stakes live events, you know, like those are different conversations. But point being, the philosophy of, for me, I like learning how the game works in its, call it, highest form, like as we use the solve to justify and check our decision-making process. And then for him, it's more of the empirical, I just need to win this hand. I need to figure out how I can do that. I need to figure out how to not lose the most when I have a hand that gets coolered type of situation. So like there really is like this middle ground that we both are aware exists. It's just about how do both of us try to get to that point, and to what extent are we making the efforts to do that?
Yeah, and that's great for you guys. And for the rest of us, we just all want to be on the sharp side.
Yeah.
So anybody who wants to slide in my DMs offering me Landon plus a number, hit me up. I will back the truck up on anything above evens.
Can I get a little piece of that, Berk?
Oh, of course. Spread the wealth. And yeah, big shout out to Alan. Thank you for giving your uneducated opinion once again, as you tend to do.
Huge opinion.
Man, what is worse than the chainsaw corner these days? I mean, it's just like it's like the worst version of, you know what grinds my gears. All right. Speaking of, we have our final Twitter Tuesday poll going up this week before our awards that we're going to be giving out. I think we're
who's involved?
We're either going to do this Thursday or Friday. And it's no coincidence. It's going to be a big shout out to the chainsaw himself. The best Alan Kessler complaint is up for your vote. We have 4 options. It's a $2 bread that's too expensive. Chicago pizza is disgusting. Your Hendon mob sucks. This one's going to be a big favorite. Or finally, just the sheer existence of the Casino King. Just even him existing at all in any sort of way, shape, or form, that really grinds Alan's gears.
What'd you vote for?
I went for the Your Hendon mob sucks.
Yeah, me too.
It's really hard. I mean,
It was the big favorite when I.
Well, it was just one of those things where it's like, God bless him, but to not have any idea who Graf can never pronounce Graf Tekel, yeah. To have no idea who he is and just how fucking elite he is. Mm-hmm. And then just, you know, basically say like, your Hendon mob's a fucking joke, buddy. It's like, yeah.
How about I bang off a couple million?
How about that changes immediately?
Yeah.
I kind of like that Alan's on his side,
good.
you know? You know, like Alan like basically mushed Graf Tekel to having a sick summer.
The sickest.
And he's doing the same thing here.
Yeah, the sickest.
Alan's like my best friend too. JBex and Kessler are like my boys.
Right before he did this to you, he did it to Scott Baumstein. He said after Scott won like his second ring or something, and one of the articles says a crusher wins his second ring, and Alan's like, how is he a crusher if he only has 2 rings?
Bro,
Scott got second in the fucking 10K win.
Fucking mush me, man. I got no rings. I got no bracelets. I got
no money, no hope.
A lot of final tables and nothing to show for it. Just feel free to, at any point, mush me.
You do have your only friends.
I do have my only friends, and I appreciate you guys. And on that note, I want to take a beat.
You snuck that
Fuck.
one in. You snuck that one in.
When you watched the run-up show, where'd you think we were going?
Let's take a beat.
Today I want to take a beat and I want to discuss the WSOP legacy. Every summer, pros and amateurs alike fly into Vegas from all over the world with visions of grandeur. Certainly, the motivations vary from person to person. For some, it's just about the money. For others, it's about the experience. A single opportunity to brush elbows with players and influencers that they've followed from day one. No matter what your motivation to step foot in the arena is, competing for a WSOP bracelet is to compete to etch your name in poker history forever. The WSOP is a special time of year for all poker players, professionals and amateurs alike. Coming up, we all stared in wonderment, nose pressed against the glass of Bobby's room, watching hundreds of thousands exchange hands amongst elite pros. We brushed elbows through the halls of Rio with larger-than-life characters running from event to event, attempting to add another bracelet to their legacy. Helmuth, Negreanu, Ivy, Mercier, Seidel, and Doyle. The list goes on, and we all have stories from the first time that we bumped into one of these characters waiting in line to purchase the $13 banana. I too often forget what it was like as that 5'10 grinder who came out here to take a shot, sitting with case money, daydreaming of the day when I'd be competing at the highest stakes. For more than just money, but to etch my name in poker history as well and generate a legacy. Last week, we discussed what our predictions were for this year's schedule, and I took a pretty hard stance against the smallest buy-ins being featured. Generally, I don't appreciate when companies run rake traps that stress the overall system that they've built, specifically when that system happens to be one of the most prestigious series of events in our industry's history. That being said, I think it's important to contextualize the World Series' place in the current poker landscape. As any elite company should, the WSOP has evolved with changing times. And while I may yearn for the days when every single elite player in the world was in attendance for quote-unquote summer school, the community has simply changed. The competition amongst all of the Vegas properties, not to mention the addition of the EPT, has made it such that the best of the best just have too many options and are more inclined to specialize than they ever were before. The WSOP isn't necessarily a showcase of our best and brightest any longer, but rather it's a convention that's open to the public to both compete against and brush elbows with thousands of other poker lovers. I understand the appeal of the small buy-in experience, and I believe the WSOP deserves all the credit in the world for serving players at all buy-in levels. Though there is a small part of me that still believes the lower the buy-in, the more the WSOP legacy takes a hit, I also think that any dilution of the brand that may occur is quickly neutralized by the thousands of enthusiasts who experience their first taste of the WSOP magic. No other series in the history of our game garners the same attention, hype, or scrutiny as the WSOP. From bracelet bets to player of the year races, we're all locked in and we're following every single storyline as they unravel. This year, 99 players will have what amounts to a once-in-a-lifetime achievement for most. And though my visions of grandeur have long since changed, I'm still delusional enough to hope that I can be one of the chosen ones. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know who you got in the JBex Landon WSOP crossbook. We'll be back tomorrow. Tentatively, we're going to be back at noon Pacific, but there's a chance I get a seat in Bobby's room, in which case we'll be here in the evening. Be sure to tune into our socials at onlyfriends_pod. Go vote for the worst Kessler moment of the year, the worst Kessler take of the year, whatever it is. We'll see you guys all tomorrow.
Peace.
Peace.